It's day 5 of the Radio Free Scholar Fluid Links Advent Calendar 2022. Today's question comes from Joshua Hammock. Now that it is over, what is the analog of Chibnall's Doctor Who to classic Doctor Who? I think I have an answer to this one. I think I've already said this halfway through.
Depends on your perspective, so I'd love to hear your answer.
It's the Graham Williams era of Doctor Who, I think, especially because we nerds, we have to do this, understand? We have to compare things to stuff that already happened. So RTD, starts the show again and makes it new and fresh and basically a staple in BBC One program, which is kind of what Barry Letts did with the Third Doctor era. Then I think Moffat comes along and cranks up the horror elements and sort of makes it this, its creative peak, I think, which is kind of what the Hinchcliffe era was. And then Graham Williams comes along where, you have to follow those two. And he takes a different approach, makes it more diverse because there's a lot more female villains and stuff and characters on screen. And then everything is thrown into the meat grinder with inflation and budget problems, aka COVID and everything else that went wrong, along with perhaps a perceived diminished decline in the public eye from its heyday. So I think it's kind of sad how actually it perfectly, like I look at Shada and I go, okay, like that could have been COVID that canceled that, which, Flux was truncated because of COVID and it really had to sort of be altered to the way it was shot in order to sort of accommodate for it.
I'd give the same answer, and then just to kind of back that up a little bit as well, you've got these, for completely different reasons as well, you've got these punctuations of massive stats numbers as well. So like, City of Death pulling in phenomenal numbers because ITV wasn't broadcasting.
Yeah.
And Chibnall's era had, so like the woman who fell to Earth was, I forget what the exact numbers were, but
just
they were
over 10, I think, something.
Yeah, they're phenomenal numbers. Like they blew most of Capaldi's numbers out of the water. But they weren't maintained.
No, they're like, down to like in the twos by the Legend of the Sea Devils, I think, finished like with less than 3 million or something on its overnights or something like this. Is Warren is lured to stats talk somehow?
And there were a couple episodes that were running the risk of doing worse than Battlefield episode, whatever it was, 3 or whatever it was that had the lowest classic series rating.
Yeah. So stats, Warren, you want to follow on that?
I'm going to ignore all the stats. But I think I have more or less the same answer you do. I think it feels like later Tom Baker. There's some certifiable bangers in there. There's some real clunkers, and the rest of it's just kind of all right. That's how it feels.
Yeah.
Are you saying Dan is a cabbage?
Not until now, no.
Talking cabbage on the court. Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, I mean, it's in the commentary. It hasn't come out in this part of the world as we record this, but the commentary for The Power of the Doctor on the Blu-ray, Jodie Whittaker and Mandip Gill are on there, and they said they crafted it to have basically separate storylines so that it wouldn't be Yaz and the Doctor together all the time, because if one of them got sick with COVID, it would have shut down the entire production. And so they had to sort of like, if we had to plan for keeping at least one storyline safe and the other one, if one of them, we could still focus on shooting that while, people recover from COVID on the other one. So even that was sort of factoring in, that having to write around COVID is kind of like having to shoot Underworld on hastily arranged blue screen, just to sort of, make do with the scenario that you were sort of encountering. So, yeah.
And byproducts of that happen, like, Thasmin suffers.
That's true. We could have, imagine if COVID didn't happen. Well, A, it would be great, but B, it would have been, although it's funny, because of COVID, we have Russell T Davies returning to Doctor Who because of a Doctor Who tweet along. So, yay COVID? Are we pro-COVID here on Radio Free Skaro now?
I don't think we're ever going to be pro-COVID.
I'm not touching that one with a 10-foot pole.
No.
All 3 of us have been COVID positive, though, so there is that.
That's true. So I think you have to be pro-COVID if you're COVID positive. That's what I'm reading here.
You're
No.
not reading anything.
No.
Your cue cards are wrong.